What if I told you that your next auto renewal is your biggest life insurance opportunity in your P&C agency? Look, in this training, if you stick around till the end, I'm going to give you a framework that will allow you to write life insurance with the auto renewals for your customers. And we're going to dive into why this is such a high leverage opportunity and that simple framework that you can take and you can implement with your team that will allow you to have a predictable way to write life insurance consistently in the P&C world. Okay. And so, first and foremost, I want you to think about how many auto renewals do you and your agency get on a month-to-month basis? Now, some of us might have bigger books than others, but the beautiful thing about this is that every one of us that has auto and home customers will be able to run this play that I'm about to teach you to call people that are having a renewal on their auto insurance policy and essentially give them an offer to get some life insurance. And, this is such a high leverage opportunity to selling life insurance. And, in my time as a producer, I was always looking for ways to be consistent. And the consistency always came from consistent activity. And this was one of those plays that I could run this month. It was something that I could run next month, the next month, and every month, essentially. Anytime a customer has an auto renewal, I can run this play. I can call them and, I'm going to walk through the framework in this training, but I can call them and essentially offer them life insurance. Now, before we dive into the framework, let's talk about why this opportunity is high leverage, why this is one that you wouldn't want to miss. And, hopefully by the end, you're like, oh my word, like this makes a lot of sense. I'm going to start calling my customers that are having auto renewals and offering them life insurance. Okay. And so why in the world is this such a high leverage opportunity to sell life insurance? Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to really go back to the drawing board and understand what our customers know us for, why they come to us, understand what they know us for, and kind of what's going on in their mind. So, if you are in the P&C world and you have auto insurance customers, you have home insurance customers, these people don't know you for life insurance. If you've been in the business long enough and if you've tried to sell life insurance and you've tried to bring it up with people, you've probably ran into people saying, well, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that you guys offered life insurance. And so guys, that's telling. That is telling that people don't even know that we offer life insurance. They really only know us for auto and home insurance. And so life insurance for a lot of people seems like a completely different thing that they're not necessarily thinking that you're going to help them with. It's something that doesn't really fit into what they know you for in terms of auto and home insurance. Customers treat life insurance as something completely separate. And the reason is because they know you for auto and home insurance. That's why they are your customers, is because you wrote them their auto and home insurance. And so when we call on these auto renewals, this is a strategic way for us to make life insurance part of the auto and home insurance. This is a strategic way for us to have life insurance as a complementary coverage to the auto insurance policy. This is a way for us to position life insurance as an extension of the auto policy rather than a completely separate product over here. Okay. And so the first reason as to why it's high leverage is because, we're calling people with something that's relevant to them. They know you for auto insurance. They know that they've got that coverage with you. And, it's just a natural time to review coverage. I believe that when we call people on their auto renewals, we earn the right for the phone call. It's not just a random phone call where, hey, Coulter, I'm calling you because I need to review your policies. Hello, Walt. Guys, meet Walt. Walt is the man, and Walt's always in here just hanging with me. But anyways, it's relevant. Okay, it gives us a good reason to call the customer. Now, some of y'all that have tried to call your current book to sell life insurance, your strategy might be, well, I'm trying to set these review appointments, and I call people and say, hey, it's been a while since we've reviewed your policies. We need to review them with you. Now, every single insurance company out there that's trying to cross-sell more products, this is what everybody does. And if you put yourself in the customer's shoes, and you have your insurance agent call you and say, hey, we haven't reviewed your policies in a while. In your mind, you're probably thinking like, okay, what's this really about? Like, what's your intention behind this call? And people can kind of see right through it, guys. Like, they can see that you're not just calling them to review their policies, you're calling them to try to sell them something more. And so if you sound like every other insurance salesperson out there, guess what your customer's probably going to feel? Guess what they're going to think when you call them to review their policies? Yeah, they're going to think, oh, this isn't just a review. Coulter's got a different agenda. He's trying to sell me something. And if we start the phone call like that, the customer's guard goes up, their wall is here, and they're not open to our recommendations. They're actually closed off because they feel like they're trying to be sold to. The call almost feels like a bait and switch, okay? But when we call on auto renewals, and that is the reason for our call, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a service. It feels like it makes sense because it's relevant. They have a policy with you that's renewing, and that's the reason for your call. Okay. And so it's relevant. Okay. And really, it just gives us a really simple reason to call. Okay. Now, the other reason why I like this strategy is because we can be consistent with it. Like I mentioned before, we get renewals this month. We're going to get renewals next month. We're going to get renewals every month going forward of people that are having their auto insurance renewing. And so it gives us a predictable and repeatable process that we can run that allows for consistent activity. Okay. And so I like the consistency because we get built-in at-bats every single month. And for your team, I mean, this is a beautiful thing to just get put in front of them, and we can become consistent with it. Because every month, if we just pull a report or a list of all of the customers that are having an auto insurance renewal, and we get that to our team, whether it's your producers that are running this, maybe it's your customer service people, maybe you have a life insurance specialist in your office. The point is it's consistent. It can happen this month, next month, and every month going forward. Okay, and that allows for a repeatable, systematic approach to selling life insurance proactively. Now, and I'm gonna kind of walk through the positioning and the strategy that helped me in my production in selling life insurance consistently with this approach. And really the positioning, what we're not trying to do here is we're not trying to call these people and trying to do this full-blown needs analysis. Okay? And the reason for that is because going back to what I said at the beginning, people know you for auto and home insurance. If you're trying to jump into a full needs analysis for life insurance, it feels like a bait and switch. And so that's going to trigger resistance. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to position life insurance to solve one immediate need. And this need is going to tie in to their auto insurance policy. And really what we're trying to do is almost make this feel like an extension of the auto policy. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying like be shady and tell them that this is part of their auto insurance policy, because it's absolutely not. But what I'm saying is that life insurance can absolutely complement an auto insurance policy. And I'm gonna give you two ways to position life insurance that's gonna allow you to do that. But instead of trying to go for this full needs analysis, the full $1 million, $2 million death benefit, because that's what quote unquote they need, we're just going to pick one immediate need to solve and start there. And what happens is we take the complexity out of the life insurance conversation. We're making the decision to say yes to some coverage easy, instead of giving them this $100, $150 a month policy that they weren't planning to spend any more money today, and risking overwhelming them with that, and maybe not selling policies to, hey, let's make an offer that's really easy for someone to say yes to. Okay. And so we're going to start small. We're going to be very strategic with our approach and our positioning of life insurance, of what life insurance will do for them. And we're going to make it complement the auto policy in such a simple and beautiful way where customers, in their mind, logically, they're like, this makes a lot of sense. Let's do it. And because it might be a smaller policy, a $100,000 policy, it could be $15 to $30 a month. That's much easier to say yes to than something that's, $100, $150 a month. Okay. Now, some of y'all might be thinking, well, Coulter, like these customers actually need more life insurance. Like $100,000 policy is not enough based on what the industry's taught me. And my answer to that is yes, I agree with you. It's not enough, but what you need to understand is this is just step one of many, right? We're not just going to write this policy and leave it alone. Average producers will do that. What we're going to do is we're going to write this policy, and then on the back end, in an issuance review, in an annual life insurance review, that is when we're going to go and build this coverage out. That is when we're going to get into more of a life needs analysis. But initially, on this specific phone call, the goal is to sell a policy. We want to take the complexity out of the conversation. We want to make it easy to say yes to. And so we can do that by solving one immediate need. Now, the analogy that I like to think through with this is it's a shotgun versus a sniper approach. Most of y'all trying to sell life insurance in the P&C world, you're trying to sell life insurance with the shotgun approach. It's a spray and pray. You're trying to go for way too much too soon. Instead, what we need to do is we need to have a sniper approach. We need to find one immediate need that we can solve and position life insurance to solve that one need. And then we'll build out later. We'll bring out the shotgun later after the customer has something in place, because it's much easier to do that. And it takes the complexity out of the conversation, and it relieves that analysis paralysis. Because if you're anything like me, if someone calls me out of the blue, I'm not expecting their phone call, and they're trying to offer me this $2 million life insurance policy that I quote unquote need, and it's $100, $150 a month, I'm probably going to give objections. I'm going to say, this sounds awesome. I just need to talk to my wife. Now, do I actually need to talk to my wife? No, but it's an easy way to get you off the phone. But it's not a decision that's easy for me to say yes to. I don't want to make a wrong decision. I don't want to commit to something that I don't really want to do or see why I should do quite yet. But instead, if you're like, hey, this is just a small coverage that's going to pay off the loan on your car. This is a small coverage that if you didn't make it home, it's going to leave money behind for your family. Like, that's much easier to say yes to, because it's not this big price tag of what I need to commit to get this in place. Okay. And so by starting small, we're lowering resistance. We're making it very easy for them to say yes to. Okay. And it's a simple addition to what they already have, not something completely new. Okay. And so outside of that, guys, I love this because it's going to open future doors. If you start to think about your life insurance production like a funnel, at the top of the funnel where it's most wide, the idea is we just want to write life insurance for our auto and home customers. I don't care how big or small the policy is, the more life insurance that we can feed into this funnel, the more future opportunities we create for ourselves to write more life insurance. Okay. And the last reason as to why I really like this, and there might be more, but the last reason I like this is because it's going to empower your team. What I'm going to go through today and the framework that I'm going to give you will allow you to give this to your team. It's a very simple step-by-step process that anyone can run. Whether you're brand new to the industry, you're brand new to sales, or whether you've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, this framework will give you the kind of a roadmap to follow, right? If you think about it this way, let's just imagine that you're trying to get to a certain destination. And let's just say that you're going to get in your car and you're going to drive to that destination, right? You're going to come see me in Utah. And so you've got your car, as long as you know how to turn on your car, as long as you know how to, put your foot on the gas and go and utilize your brake, you have the vehicle that can get you to Utah to visit me. However, if you don't have directions, if you don't have a GPS that can tell you where to go, it's going to be difficult to get to the destination. And so think of this framework like your GPS. It's going to give you the roadmap so you know exactly where to go, exactly when to turn, so you can get to the end destination, which is to sell a life insurance policy. Okay, so if you stick around to the video, you're going to have this framework that you can literally give to your team. Okay, and so this is a very high leverage opportunity, and I love it because it creates consistency with life insurance with our P&C customers. Okay, and so guys, the process is very simple. I believe in simplicity. I believe that when things are simple, they're repeatable for any level of experience. And you're going to see that today. Okay. And so before I even make this phone call, first and foremost, we need to run a report. We need to run a list. We need to get all of the auto policies that are going to be renewing this month. Okay. And ideally, guys, as far as the cadence goes, I would say the last week of the month, or the last couple weeks of the month, you should run this report for the autos that are renewing next month. So we can be prepared and we can just give this to our team when the first of the month hits. Okay. Now we are in the first of a new month right now. And so you can run a list of all of the policies that are renewing this month and start calling on them then. Okay. So that's going to be the first step, is we've got to run this list. We've got to run this report. Now, when we have this report, now we want to get it to our team. Okay. And what we want to do before, we just say, hey, start calling on these people, we want to help them have some strategy in place. And the first step before we even call anybody is we want to do our prep work. Okay. And so the way that I like to work lists is, I've got a list of all of these auto policies that are renewing next month or this month. I'm going to start at the top of the list and I'm going to work down. Okay. But what I'm going to do is, I personally believe in momentum, and I want to win early and I want to win fast. And so if I've got 50 names on this list, I'm going to kind of cherry pick the ones that are the highest leverage, the ones that I know if I call and, I could probably write a policy. Okay. And so the ones that I'm going to look for are, maybe the decreases, right? Because we know that in the auto insurance world, every 6 months for most of us, and some carriers, it's every year, the policy is going to renew. And the price isn't the same as the previous renewal. Sometimes it goes up. And I know some of us are experiencing more of that right now, but if you are, just hang in there. Like, it's cyclical and it's happening to everyone out there, not just you. But the second thing that we're going to run into is we're going to run into some decreases. We're going to run into people's premiums decreasing by $20, $30, $40 a month. Those, in my personal opinion, are higher leverage than ones that aren't. Because if I can make an offer to you to get a life insurance policy that's solving one immediate need, that complements the auto policy that you're already paying for, and I can get you that in place and your bill still goes down, I mean, that's really easy to say yes to. I'm making it simple for you. Or even if I can offset the cost of the additional life insurance coverage, if I can do that, then it's easier to say yes to a $5 increase than it would be a $20 increase. Okay. And not to mention, other discounts. Are there any other discounts that these people might be missing out on? Some of y'all have telematic devices that if they just set this up on their phone, they connect it to Bluetooth and they leave it in their vehicle, they'll get a discount right away by having that in place. Maybe you're looking through this list and you identify, oh my gosh, they don't have this discount. And if they would just set it up, it would save them $20 a month across the board. Now you have $20 a month that you can use as leverage in this conversation. Okay. But the whole idea, guys, is I want to make an offer that is so good that you have a hard time telling me no, that you honestly feel a little silly or maybe even a little stupid telling me no, because it's so simple, right? I can get you more coverage that's going to solve this need that maybe you weren't thinking about, but now you are, and I can get this for you and your bill still goes down, or your bill stays the same, or your bill hardly changes at all. Okay. That is the beautiful thing about this. And so that's kind of my approach with this list. That's how I like to work lists, is I want to find the ones that I know I can close. And I want to start there. Okay. Because what happens is if I can get into the office on a Monday and I can write a life insurance policy before noon on a Monday, that is going to build momentum for me for that day. That is going to build momentum for me for that week. And if I can get it early on in the month, that is going to build momentum for me for the month. Okay. And even in the year, like it's the first of the year. Imagine if you could just start getting policies written right away. Imagine what that momentum could do for you for the rest of the year. Okay. Sales becomes easier when things are going our way. And so I just want to engineer the best moments, and I want to engineer selling more policies quicker. I want to win early. I want to win fast, because I know that if I can get that momentum on my side, my conversations will be better and I will naturally close more life insurance policies. Okay. So we got this list in front of us. We're looking for the highest leverage opportunities. We're kind of starting at the top and kind of going down, and anyone, that has a decrease, anyone that doesn't have a discount that you could offer them, I'm going to start with those ones. Okay. Now, outside of trying to find the ones that are highest leverage, what I also want to do here is I want to decide my positioning. I want to decide my approach, my strategy of how I'm going to position life insurance for this specific renewal. Okay. And I want to break this down. I want to keep it really simple for you guys. Okay. And there's really two positionings that I will choose when I'm calling on this list. Okay. The first one is if they have a loan on the vehicle, I will position life insurance to pay off the loan on the vehicle if something terrible happened to them. Okay. And that's a very, very simple way to write life insurance, and it makes sense for people. It complements the auto policy because they have a loan on their vehicle that they have insurance on. And so it feels like it fits for the customer. Okay. It logically makes sense to have coverage to pay off the loan on the vehicle. It feels like an extension of coverage. And in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like an endorsement. It feels like a nice addition that just makes sense. Okay. So if they have loans on vehicles, that's usually where I will start. That's how I'll decide right then and there. Okay, great. I'm calling Coulter. He's got a loan on his vehicle that's renewing. I'm going to position life insurance to pay that loan off. Okay. And deciding our positioning is going to guide the conversation. It's going to help us know where to go next and know what to say to actually sell this policy. Now, the second way that I like to position life insurance, if Coulter doesn't have a loan on his vehicle, then I'm going to position life insurance to leave money behind for his family, and leave money behind for his family to cover expenses that are associated with dying. Okay. And that's going to be a funeral, right? Like those are the two positionings that I will decide is I'm going to pay off a loan on a vehicle if they have one. And if they don't, I'm going to position life insurance to leave money behind for their family to take care of final expenses when something does happen or if something does happen. Okay. And so that is the prep work. Okay, you're going to find the highest leverage opportunities, the ones where premiums are decreasing, the ones where there's some discounts that they don't have that they could take advantage of, and you're going to decide your positioning. What am I going to position life insurance to do for this specific customer that will allow it to fit in right with the auto insurance policy? Okay, so after we've done those two things in our prep work, we're ready for the phone call. Okay, and this phone call, guys, there's really 4 simple steps. Okay, and I want you to write these things down. Okay, the first step of this phone call is our opening. We need to nail our opening. If we can't open a conversation with a customer, we're not going to be able to close a life insurance policy. And some of y'all might be thinking, well, don't I just call them and just open the phone call like that? Yes, but what I mean with your opening is your opening needs to earn the right for the phone call. Your opening needs to cause the customer to be okay with giving you their time and attention. And your opening needs to disarm the customer. Because naturally, I mean, if you think about this phone call, right? Yes, these are your customers. Yes, they trust you guys already. Yes, and that's why this works so well, right? Like they trust you. They've already bought from you in your agency once. They will buy from you again. They will buy more from you because they already trust you. Okay. And so a lot of the job's already done, but if we open the conversation in a way that feels salesy, that feels like it's just a sales call, it's not going to go anywhere. And so we've got to nail our opening. Okay. And the way that we want to nail our opening is I want you guys to think about it in this way. We are leading with service here. We're not leading with a pitch. Okay. We're leading with service. And I'm going to show you how that works in this framework as we go. Okay. We also want to, in our opening, essentially tell them that we're calling them because their auto insurance policy is renewing. Okay. And instead of just saying your auto insurance policy is renewing, I want you to use the year, make, and model of the vehicle that's renewing. That becomes more relevant, more personal to them. Because think about it this way. If you were to call Coulter's got a 2025 Mercedes. Let's say that you were to call Coulter and you were to say, hey, Coulter, I'm calling you because your auto insurance policy is renewing. Versus, hey, Coulter, I'm calling you because your 2025 Mercedes policy is renewing. Which one do you feel like is going to feel more relevant, feel more personal to Coulter? Well, it's going to be the 2025 Mercedes. So I want you to use the name, the year, at least the year and the make of the vehicle that's renewing, because it will communicate relevance and the customer will be like, yep, I do have that insured. Yep, that's my vehicle. And they're more open to giving you time. Okay. And so by leading with service, okay, by telling them the vehicle that's renewing, the next thing you're going to want to do is tell them why you're calling. Okay. And the reason why we're calling here is because your Mercedes is renewing. That is the reason why we're calling, but we're not done yet. We got to give Coulter a reason to want to stay on the phone with you. We've got to create some form of curiosity that causes the customer to want to engage with you. Okay? Because if Coulter doesn't engage with you, if Coulter's not actually listening to what you're saying, you're not going to sell anything to him because he's not listening to you. And that's what will happen if our opening is poor. Okay? But instead, if you could say, hey, Coulter, this is Coulter with XYZ Agency. I'm calling because your 2025 Mercedes is renewing. There's our reason, but now we got to give Coulter a reason as to why he should care to listen. I've noticed a few ways where we might be able to help you save some money and increase your coverage. Okay. And another way you could say that is I'm calling because I've noticed a few ways where we could possibly improve coverage and decrease cost. Do you have a couple minutes? Okay, so I'm going to put that opening together because you're going to want to nail your opening. Okay, hey Coulter, it's Coulter with XYZ Agency. I'm calling because your 2025 Mercedes is renewing, and I've noticed a few ways to possibly improve your coverage and decrease your cost. Do you have a couple minutes? Okay, and notice how I use the words possibly. What I don't want to do is I don't want to assume that I can help them get better coverage and save them money. I don't want to do that. I want to stay neutral because what happens is if I'm assumptive too soon, then that might trigger some resistance. That might cause the customer like, okay, I don't know about this. But also, let's say that I get into it and I'm not actually able to save them money. I don't want to tell them that I'm for sure able to save them money and tell them that, oh, you're going to actually pay more for this. Okay. So that's why I use the word possibly. Okay. So step number one, after we do our prep work, is we want to nail our opening. Okay. The second step is after we've nailed our opening, we want to do a mini review. We do not want to jump right into saying, hey, I noticed that you don't have a coverage, right? Like that's a bait and switch. They're going to feel that and they're like, oh, this is an actual review call. You're not actually calling because you're wanting to make sure that I'm, that my renewal is good, that my auto policy is good. You're actually calling me to sell me something more. And so if we jump into the pitch and the offer too soon, we will trigger that resistance. People's walls will go up, their guards are going to go up, and it feels like a bait and switch, and you're not going to have success like you could with this thing. Okay. So after we do our opening, we're going to do a mini review. Now for me, the policy's renewing. So I want to review the policy with them. Where I like to start is I like to do a mini review of the names on the policy. I like to start general and then get into coverage. Okay. And you're going to see how this is going to set us up for a very natural, smooth, and logical pivot into life insurance that doesn't trigger resistance. Okay. And so I'm going to start and I'm going to review the names on the policy. After that, I'm going to review the mailing address and confirm that that's correct. And then after I do that, then I'm going to review the coverages. Okay. I'm going to go through bodily injury property damage coverages for their liability. I'm going to review their medical payments, their PIP coverage. I'm going to review their deductibles, uninsured, underinsured. I'm going to review their endorsements on the policy. I'm just going to do a quick mini review. Okay. Now, after I do the review, okay, this is key. If the third step here is we're going to now pivot into life insurance. And like I said at the beginning, in your prep work, you have decided already before you called Coulter if you're going to position life insurance to pay off his loan on his vehicle or if you're going to position it to leave money behind for the family. Okay, the positioning matters because it's going to determine when and where I bring life insurance into the equation. Okay, so let's start with the paying a loan off on a vehicle. Okay, what I'm going to do is after this mini review, I'm going to go and review all of the coverages with them. Okay, and then I'm going to jump into my life insurance pivot. Okay, and the way I do that is before I talk to Coulter about paying off his loan, I want to start to talk about the loan first. Okay, and so starting my pivot, I'm going to confirm the lien holder on the policy. Okay, and after that, I'm going to ask them how much they have left on that loan. Okay, and so this is how it would sound. I'd say, look, I'm showing that you have a loan on your vehicle with ABC Bank. Is that still correct, or have you guys paid that off? That's my way of confirming if they still have a loan on this thing. And that's my way of starting to talk about the loan so I can talk to them about getting coverage to pay off the loan if they were to pass away. Okay, see how this is like making it very natural and smooth? The idea with our life insurance pivots is to have a natural and smooth transition, not a harsh redirection. We don't want it to feel like a pivot at all. We want it to feel like it's part of everything, okay? Because if it does feel like a pivot, it's gonna feel like a bait and switch, and that's gonna trigger some objections for you, okay? And so by starting and confirming the bank, the lien holder, asking if they have a loan, or if they still have the loan, or if they've paid it off, and confirming the lien holder on the policy is going to allow that smooth and natural transition to happen, okay? Now they're like, oh yeah, we still have the loan. Awesome. About how much do you have left on that loan? Okay, now I'm gonna get, I owe $30,000 on the loan, okay? Now, if you want to even further get ahead of objections and try to prevent them from coming up in the first place, instead of just jumping right into what do you have left on that loan, like what's your loan balance, ask them how long they've had the vehicle. So how long have you had this vehicle? Oh, I've had it for about 2 years. Okay. Did you do the 5-year loan or the 6-year? What term did you do? Oh, I did the 7-year loan. Okay. So you've had it for about 2 years. You've got 5 years left. About how much do you have left on that loan? Okay. That is just another way to get ahead of objection before they come up, because we're earning the right to ask them how much they have left on their loan. Now, I wouldn't get too caught up in that. But, biggest thing is confirm the loan, the lien holder on the policy, find out how much they owe, and that's going to set you up for your life insurance pivot. Okay. And so after we do that, after they've told us, we owe about $30,000 on the loan, here's where we're going to pivot into life insurance. Now, because of the nature of this transaction, because we're calling them, because we're interrupting their day, I don't necessarily love questions in this situation. I don't really want to ask questions here. I prefer to make recommendations, especially because I know that if I'm saving Coulter money and able to get him a life insurance policy, I don't want to ask permission. I don't want to necessarily ask him if he wants this. I want to just show him and say, hey, I would recommend this. Boom. And here's what it is. Okay. And that's just my personal preference. Okay. But the idea is, after we've confirmed this loan information, now we can pivot into life insurance. And the way that I like to do that is I like to just take the horse to the water. I like to lead the horse to the water. And I'll say, hey, so where you have a loan on this vehicle, I'm going to look at a coverage that would actually come in and pay off this loan in the event that, heaven forbid, something terrible were to happen to you and you were to pass away prematurely. I'm going to look at that, and you can tell me what you think. That's my pivot. Because you have a loan, I'm going to look at a coverage that would pay off the loan. Notice how I'm not saying life insurance. Okay. And I'm not doing that to be sneaky. I'm doing that because I understand why people buy life insurance. People don't buy life insurance because it's a life insurance policy. They buy what it will do for them. They buy the benefits of the policy for them and their family. And so that's what I'm going to lead with. I'm going to say, I'm going to look at a coverage. I'm not going to look at life insurance. I'm going to look at a coverage that would do this. Okay. But I'm not done. Okay. Within my pivot, I still need to sell the value of what this policy will do. And I want you to write these 3 things down: problem, solution, benefits. That is your little guide that will allow you to build value and have a compelling reason as to why Coulter should care to have a coverage in place that pays off the loan on his vehicle. Okay. And so the problem, if we break this apart in our pivot, the problem is, hey, you have a loan on your vehicle. That's the problem. Okay. And at the end of the day, guys, we know that if something happens to Coulter, that debt doesn't just go away. Someone is going to have to deal with that debt. So that's the problem. You have a loan on your vehicle. The solution is, I'm going to look at a coverage that would pay that loan off. Okay, but I'm not done. I've got to give Coulter a reason as to why he should care. And that's where the benefits come in. Okay, I want to help Coulter see what this policy will do for him and his family and why he should care. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, that way, in the event of something terrible happening to you, this loan is paid off so that spouse and kids are never in a position where they might be struggling financially with this thing on top of trying to deal with losing you. That way, spouse doesn't have to have this added stress on top of trying to figure out how she's going to do life without you and still be emotionally strong for the kids. But it's just paid off. It's taken care of for him or her. That way, spouse is never in a position where they're forced to sell the vehicle out of necessity. They're forced to list the vehicle. They're forced to have to schedule test drives and have that added stress on top of trying to deal with losing you. Those benefits are what tie the coverage to why the customer would even care to have it in the first place. Okay. Because at the end of the day, guys, some of us are going to want to just jump right into giving them the offer. And we think that, oh, we could save people money and still get them this other coverage. Like, that's a done deal. And we'll skimp out on the selling part. We'll skimp out on the value. We'll skimp out on the benefits because we think it's just a no-brainer. We can't assume that. We have to assume that they don't know. We have to assume that we need to explain the value, because what happens is when people see the value, they will pay the price. That's my belief, and I've seen it time and time again, okay? And so after you pivot into life insurance, you're gonna follow the framework, problem, solution, benefits in your pitch to get life insurance, and it's going to be very compelling, okay? And then after that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna give them the price, okay? And the way I give the price is strategic, okay? And I want you to think about this scenario going back to the beginning. Coulter's your customer. He's on this list. His auto policy is renewing next month. You're going to call Coulter. You're interrupting Coulter's day. He's not expecting your phone call. And what he's also not expecting, he's not expecting to pay more. He's not expecting to have changes to his policy. Okay? And because he's not expecting those things, because he's not expecting to pay more or for his bill to necessarily change, okay? And I know that renewals change bills and whatnot, but Coulter, as the customer, he's not expecting those things. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to say, hey, if we did this, it would be $20 more a month, okay? What I don't want to do is I don't want to tell them it's going to cost them more. I don't want to frame it like that. Instead, I want to just quote the total bill. I want to frame it like, hey, if we did do this, it would bring your bill from $230 a month to about $250. And I'm going to be quiet, okay? So I'm going to quote their total bill. Now, let's say that there's a decrease. Let's say that there's a discount that you've got in there, okay? What you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to go, okay, what's their bill minus the discounts that you have plus the cost of the life insurance policy, and you're going to deliver that number. You're going to say, hey, if we did this, here's the cool thing. It's actually going to take your bill, your total bill, to about $250 a month, okay? It's going to bring your bill from $230 to $250, or maybe you're saving them money. So it's going to take your bill from $230 a month and it's going to go to $220. Okay. See how delivering the price in that way keeps the focus on the benefits and makes it easy for the customer to say yes to. Okay. So it's strategic as to how we're giving the price. Okay. And so that is as simple as the conversation is if you're deciding to pay off a loan on a vehicle. Okay. So that's your positioning number one. Now, positioning number two is if they don't have a loan on a vehicle, you're obviously not going to call them to try to pay off a loan that they don't have. So the second way of positioning is to leave money behind for family to cover expenses. Okay. So if we go back to this framework, okay, we're still going to do our prep work. We're still going to nail our opening. We're going to do our review, but instead of waiting until the end of the review to pivot into life insurance, I want to embed the life insurance pivot inside the review if I'm going to go with positioning two, leaving money behind for family to cover expenses, okay? And the place that I like to do it, the place that is most natural, that makes the most sense, that position things as a complementary coverage rather than a completely different coverage is right after I explain the liability coverages on the car insurance policy. That is when I'm going to, go into my life insurance pivot. Okay. And after I do my pivot, my presentation for life insurance, I'm then going to continue with deductible reviews, uninsured, underinsured reviews, endorsement reviews, and then I'm going to give them the price. Okay. So how does that sound? Okay. First and foremost, I believe it's important how we're explaining liability coverages to our customers. Okay. We want to explain them in a way that will set us up for a life insurance pivot if this is our positioning. Okay. And so the way I like to do it is this. The way I like to explain liability coverages in my review is like this. I'll say, Coulter, so for your auto insurance policy on the Mercedes, we've got liability limits set here at $50,000, $100,000, and $50,000. Now, Coulter, do those coverages make sense to you? And your customers, guys, if you've been in the industry long enough, you know that most people don't understand their liability insurance on their car insurance policy. You know that before you got into insurance, didn't understand what these coverages actually do for you. And you now know that that's a problem. You now know that if a customer leaves your office with state minimums and they've got equity on their home, and they don't have enough coverage to cover that it could be a situation where it's financially devastating. Okay. And we know that, but our customers don't. And so by explaining the liability coverages and asking the customer, do you understand how these coverages work? and then explaining to them and reviewing how they work, whether they tell you they do understand or they don't understand, they need a quick review, you're going to build some trust. Okay. People see value when you're able to help them understand the importance of these coverages. Okay. And so explaining liability in this way is going to set you up for this life insurance pivot, and your recommendation is going to carry more weight because they trust you, because they see value and they're like, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for explaining that. Okay. So the way I like to do it is like this. Okay. I'll say, Coulter, so let me do a quick review, because I would argue that your liability coverages on your Mercedes are some of the most important coverages that you pay for on your car insurance policy, because they protect you financially if you were to cause an accident. Okay. And so let's say that you did cause an accident. Okay. The insurance company is going to pay up to $50,000 if you were to injure or, heaven forbid, kill one person in a car accident. Insurance company would pay up to $100,000 if you were to injure or, heaven forbid, kill more than one person in a car accident, and up to $50,000 for property damage, whether it's other vehicles that you damage, maybe you hit a building, a fence, stuff like that. Does that make sense? Okay. And I always like to ask, after I explain those coverages in that way, does that make sense? Okay. It's a clarifying question that helps me keep the customer. I'm holding their hand step by step. Okay. And notice how I'm explaining liability coverages here. Notice how I'm not just saying bodily injury, but I'm adding in there death. Okay. Now, some of y'all might be thinking, man, that just sounds morbid. That's like difficult to do. At the end of the day, if you're thinking like that, you've got to go back to the drawing board. Car insurance is in place to protect people financially if they cause an accident, if they cause harm, or if they damage people's property. Like, that's what it's there. It's for liability. It's for anything people could be liable for. And I'm sure you know of people that have passed away in a car accident, right? So this stuff happens. And so if you find it hard to explain it in that way, you've got to go back to the drawing board. You've got to understand that, like, this is real. This stuff happens. People die in car accidents all the time. And if something like that happens, that is a likely situation of happening. Okay. But what it's going to do is it sets me up for this life insurance pivot. I'm going to show you exactly how. After I explain those and I say, does that make sense? I'm then going to go into my life insurance pivot. And it's going to sound something like this. I'm going to say, and you know what, Coulter? I'm sure you knew this and maybe you didn't, but your car insurance policy, these coverages, they don't cover you and your family in the same way that they cover other people. Meaning, if something were to happen to you and you were the one that didn't walk away from the car accident, something were to happen to you and you didn't make it home tonight, you were to pass away prematurely, your car insurance policy isn't going to leave spouse and kids any money. Okay. And so because of that, Coulter, I'm going to look at a coverage that would. I'm going to look at a coverage that would leave spouse and kids $100,000 of coverage, whatever death benefit you want to start with, right? Point is like, start with something small. Make this easy for people to say yes to, okay? I'm going to quote you a coverage that would leave spouse and kids some money behind, okay? But we're not done, right? If we go to problem solution benefits, okay, and we break this apart, hey, the problem is your auto insurance policy doesn't cover you in the same way as it covers other people. The solution is I'm going to look at a coverage that would. And the benefits are so that spouse and kids are never in a position where they might be struggling financially with expenses that are associated with you not being around anymore. They're not in a position where they're struggling with that on top of trying to deal with losing you. Okay. And then I'll go on after that. I've done my pitch. I've done my value proposition. I've explained the value. Now I'm going to go and finish the review. Okay. And so I'm going to look at that and you can tell me what you think. Okay. Now on your auto insurance policy, you've got deductibles on here for comprehensive and collision. They're both $500. Okay. And then I'm going to go through endorsements and I've done my review. I've done my pitch and now I'm going to deliver the price. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to do it in this exact same way. Okay. Here's the cool thing, Coulter. We can actually get you that coverage that would actually leave spouse and kids money behind if something terrible were to happen to you. So they're not having to ever be in a position where they're struggling financially with this added stress and burden on top of trying to deal with losing you. We can actually get that for you. And with the discounts and with what your policy is renewing, your overall bill will actually still go down by about $10 a month. Or here's the cool thing, Coulter. We can actually get you that coverage. With your renewal, it would actually bring your bill from about $230 a month to about $237. Okay. And so guys, I'm telling you, like, this is one of the moments, the most organic moment where customers are most receptive to buy life insurance. And so why would we not double down? Why would we not make this part of our process? Why would we not make this part of our system? Why would we not run a list or report of all of the autos that are renewing every month and get that to our salespeople, get that to our service people, whoever's going to make these phone calls? Why would we not do that? Okay? Because what happens, guys, is when we can do this consistently, we get consistent production. Okay? Oftentimes what I run into with producers, agencies that are frustrated with their lack of production, it's that we don't really have a strategy. We don't have a systematic way to sell life insurance. Telling our team to ask more is not a strategy. It doesn't work, okay? And it doesn't work because when we say just ask more, our team is just asking everybody they possibly can. But I'm telling you, not every interaction is created equal in terms of selling life insurance. Some are much higher leverage than others. And so we could do one of two things. We could just continue to tell our team, hey, you need to ask more if we, to sell more life insurance. And I'm not saying that's not true, like it is, but why don't we set our team up for success? Why don't we give them opportunities that we know are high leverage, where customers are most receptive to buy life insurance? And why don't we systematize that? Okay, because what will happen is if we can do that, your team's going to actually start selling policies. And that's going to build their confidence and their beliefs. And they start to believe that people buy life insurance from us. Like, this is crazy. This is awesome. Instead of constantly getting rejected, 9 times out of 10, the customer gives an early objection because of whatever reason, and they don't buy anything. And now our team's discouraged. They're frustrated because it's not working for them. So guys, there's more strategy in this game than we think. And there is such a goldmine of life insurance opportunity in our P&C book. All we need to do is have a strategy that is compelling, that goes with human behavior, that gets customers at the moments when they're most receptive to buy life insurance. And we need to have a process that we can give our team that step by step, we need to give them the GPS so that they can get to the destination predictably and consistently and actually sell policies. I'm telling you, everything changes when we do this. Okay. Now, to end, something is better than nothing in terms of coverage. $100,000 may not be enough coverage for Coulter and his family, but it's something. And that something could go a long way for Coulter. But remember, this is step one of many. This is just the beginning of a life insurance journey with Coulter, right? Like, at the issuance of this policy, if you're smart, you're going to hold a mini review, whether it's Coulter sitting in the seat across from you or you got him on the phone, and you are going to go for more coverage. You're going to help Coulter see the bigger exposure that, you've got enough coverage to pay off your Mercedes, but your mortgage, like, what happens to your house? And then, your income, right? We can build that out much easier and much more naturally and organically for both you and the customer if we position life to solve one immediate need first, get something on the books, and then build on that something later. Okay. So guys, take this to your team, go and make this part of your system. And, look, if you would prefer to have like scripts and this like laid out for your team so you can just print it off and give it to them so they have the GPS that like works, and you want the words to give your team and that GPS, click the link in the description, get on a call with me. That's literally what we do in our cross-sell academy. And we've got different plays like this where customers are most receptive to buy. And we've got a playbook that will allow your team and your agency to make life insurance consistent. And because guys, at the end of the day, we make life insurance way more difficult than it needs to be, but it's because we just don't know any better. Okay. And so if you want to go farther, if you want to go faster, click the link below, get on a call with me. I can walk you through what Cross-Sell Academy looks like for your team. And, if not, I've got a free live training that we're doing this week. The link is in the description as well, where I'm going to be sharing my story of how I went from 10 life insurance policies to 251 with over 100,000 in premium. And in this, I'm going to be walking through how to handle the most common life insurance objections that your team will get when we try to cross-sell life insurance. So join us. That's free. And if you want to get on a call with me, you want to see what Cross-Sell Academy would look like for your team, click the link in the description as well. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning into the Life Insurance Training Show. And my only ask, like this, comment, subscribe, share it with a friend if you found that this was helpful. Appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.